Why is it that in spooky games, the characters always wind up right back to where all the scary things started happening? You'd think the logical thing to do would be to remove yourself from the situation, to get as far away as possible from the location of the huge scary structure that turns everyone and everything into a horrible damn nightmare. But in the world of Dead Space 2, hubris is a killer and makes people do crazy things. But for me, I'm glad things stay mostly the same. Instead of a sequel that reinvents the wheel, Dead Space 2 opts for sticking with what works. The result is one of the absolute best direct sequels I've ever played. It's an action horror masterpiece that aims to overwhelm and features one of the best and most hilarious completion bonuses of all time. Everyone, praise the marker with me as I recomplete Dead Space 2.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Completionist New Game Plus, the show where I am recompleting the first 120 episodes of the Completionist right here on the channel. More on that in the box down below. So, it's the month of Halloween, everyone, where all manner of creepy and spooky things are happening. Today, I'm going to be revisiting one of my favorite Dead franchises of all time, Dead Space, with my favorite friend who attempted to murder me last time around. Guys, welcome Jesse Cox back to the show. Thanks, Jesse.
Hey, Gerard. How you doing there, buddy? Sorry about the whole neck snap attempt, but hey, it did make for a good gif on the internet.
Well, I admit, quarantine has made it hard for us to communicate, but I'm glad that you can't hurt me this time around. That's nice.
Oh, man, that would have been so much fun! Just to crack your neck, give you the old squeeze and struggle. Just a good old beatdown, you know?
What?
Dead Space is one of the best video game IPs ever made. The first time I played Dead Space 2, I thought it was incredible that somehow Visceral Games made a sequel that was even better than the first game. What do you think, Jesse?
It's true. I think we were both caught off guard by how much we enjoyed the first Dead Space. And Dead Space 2 took things to a whole new level. And yeah, it still plays almost exactly the same. It's still an incredibly immersive third-person game. Isaac still explores dark and creepy environments, cutting the limbs off super gross, super scary space zombies with whatever leftover mining tools he can get his hands on. But when the game feels this awesome to play, more the same in the sequel can actually be a good thing. Sometimes instead of messing with the formula, it's better just to leave things the way they are.
There is one difference from my original playthrough of Dead Space 2. For the original episode, I completed it on the PS3. This time around, I completed the game on the Xbox One using the backwards compatibility to play the 360 version. Technology, it's incredible. And frankly, I can't wait to see what Dead Space 4 looks like on the latest console generation.
Damn it, Gerard, why would you do this? You know that all I want in the world is to host a Scary Game Squad with a brand new Dead Space to play. You make me sad.
Yeah, sorry, bud, you're right. It's even sadder because the plot of Dead Space 2 builds perfectly from the first game. Isaac Clarke has survived his hellacious experience aboard the USS Ishimura. He finds himself in a hospital where minutes after waking up and being grilled by the meanest psychiatrist ever, necromorphs start exploding out of people's bodies and end up killing everyone.
Isaac does the smart thing and tries to get the hell out of there, only to find himself caught between multiple factions vying for his attention. He's never sure who to trust as he makes his way through both new and familiar locations. Twisted Unitologists and Isaac's own fractured mind are the greatest threats to life and limb.
For me, Dead Space 2 is an absolute roller coaster of a thrill ride. One of my favorite things about playing the original Dead Space was playing in front of people like it was a movie, and Dead Space 2 is possibly even more cinematic. Everything about it is bigger, better, and bolder than the original game, from the storytelling to the weapons to even the completion bonuses. Dead Space 2 shows the correct way of doing a direct sequel. I I love Dead Space 2 just as much now as I did when I first played it for the Halloween special episode of The Completionist way back in 2013, possibly even more so. This game is a masterpiece. Everything from Dead Space 2 is designed to be as overwhelming as possible, but coming through that challenge is truly one of the most satisfying completion challenges I have ever experienced. Nearly everything Dead Space 1 did that I liked, Dead Space 2 does even better.
One thing you forgot to mention, Gerard, we did this episode during one of your collaboration months, and you obviously saved the best for last. C'est moi. And I know you wanted to collaborate with me on this episode in particular. It's because we both appreciate how affecting storytelling can be, especially in front of an audience. Streaming scary games in front of people helps both the audience and the player appreciate the game even more.
All right, Jesse, look, I'm not here to stroke your ego, but you're not wrong. Streaming this game as a part of my New Game Plus experience was incredibly fulfilling and also helped me appreciate just how tense the entirety of Dead Space 2 is. The sound design for the first game is award-winning, but the sequel steps things up even more. There's always a moment of hesitation when I replay a game that I love as much as this one, like the fear of, will it be as good as I remember it being? But from the opening minutes, I felt relieved when I realized, no, I was right. This game still kicks tons of ass.
Something we loved the first time we played through the game was that Isaac gets fleshed out more as a character this time around. One, we get to see his face and actually hear his voice. He almost looks exactly like if the main guy from L.A. Noire and Cole McGrath from Infamous were spliced together. I liked that the first game let Isaac kind of be a mute cipher, but having him be more of an actual character this time around makes the game way more cinematic. It's just cool watching a smart guy do smart things. Isaac is supposed to be an engineer, and one of the first things he does is hack a terminal barehanded to use it for his own survival. It reminds me of Alien, where Ridley isn't just some scared protagonist, but someone actually trying to solve the problem in front of them.
I'd agree with you, but I'd say that Dead Space 2 is way more aliens than Alien. The game throws players right into the action and horror instantly, which I love in a sequel. We all know what we're here for, right? Blasting gross aliens away and getting the pants scared off of us. Dead Space 2 met my expectations instantly, though I have to wonder, who, as they're fleeing for their lives and getting turned inside out by nightmare creatures, takes the time to write these messages in blood on the walls?
That's just horror logic. Same reason why everyone is leaving recordings around with detailed instructions on how to kill necromorphs, but even though there are some corny collectibles, I'd say the environments in Dead Space 2 are superior to the first.
You know, that's so true. This game takes place in a much larger environment than the first game, and it feels packed with details that give the Sprawl, this game's main location, more life. I said it in my first video and I'll say it again. Dead Space 2 is one of the best visually designed games I've ever played. It honestly doesn't feel like a game that came out almost 10 years ago. It looks really, really good still. It feels like Visceral Games really wanted to expand the universe of Dead Space with this sequel. Now, it's not as boundary pushing in terms of gameplay because it's still a sequel, but it does build on what came before it in some really cool ways. So for example, the first game had really long-range scary baby necromorphs, but Dead Space 2 put me in a full-on nursery that is incredibly creepy and horrifying and full of kamikaze toddler-sized monsters. Is this what fatherhood feels like? The new monsters are great, like the fast stalkers or the hideous giant tripods. Our first time through this game, I remember wishing there were more boss fights, but you know what? I don't really miss that aspect this time around. Dead Space 2 has several throwbacks to the first game, but still feels like its own unique extension of this universe. It references some touchstones like the fact that players full on go back to explore the Ishimura from the first game, but mostly it expands things in great new ways, like the death cult of Unitology. Dead Space became one of my favorite franchises after the first game, and I was amazed the first time I played the sequel at how much it felt like lightning had struck twice.
The plot alone is so solid that it makes up for the gameplay being similar to the first game. We both loved that the religious extremists are the biggest threat, but there's also this element of Isaac's PTSD that influences his interactions with almost every new character. The storytelling is much stronger than the original Dead Space and really helps this game stand out among other action and horror games.
I still think Dead Space 2's story is one of the best I've played. The way it constantly tops itself but still feels like it's building momentum all the way to the end is still hard to match. I still have gripes with how it basically ends with the QuickTime event, but I feel like that's more of it being a product of its time more than anything.
Dead Space 2 does a great job with lore and new mechanics, but at the end of the day, this game is about having fun and killing space monsters. And it feels incredible to do so. Isaac still uses a lot of the same mining tools turned weapons from the first game, like the line gun and plasma cutter. But there are also insane new weapons, like the javelin launcher that spikes monsters to walls and then explodes. It's outrageously satisfying and one of the best weapons in any horror game.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. Necromorphs are disgusting and deserve to be killed in the most extreme ways possible. Not only does Isaac have rad tools that he's repurposed into dismemberment machines, he still has the power to slow-mo anything he sees with stasis. I loved unleashing a symphony of destruction on all the slithering, crawling beasts in Dead Space 2. And playing it on the Xbox One via backwards compatibility was even a smoother experience than the first time around. It was overall a cleaner time, and if you've got an Xbox One lying around with that backwards compatibility, it'll work flawlessly. It was a blast to play through this entire game again. In my first video, it took me about 4 full playthroughs before I really felt comfortable. This time around, as I was streaming it, I was able to complete the game in just about 3 full playthroughs total. The muscle memory came back strong this time around.
There's definitely something about streaming games at the hardest difficulty that makes you really lock in, Gerard. We're both performers at heart, and the challenge presented in hardcore mode really brings out the best in players.
The unfortunate truth, though, is that hardcore mode is not accessible from the start. So first, I crashed through the game on Zealot mode, the almost hardest difficulty. But you know what? It's New Game Plus, baby, and now I've completed this game before, so that means that I've had no qualms about exploiting certain node-related glitches via speedrunning. Early in the game, still around the first or second chapter, there are a couple of power nodes and credits that can be easily duplicated. This allows players to upgrade their tools and armor way earlier on than normally would be available. Zealot difficulty is still very tough, but it's nothing compared to hardcore mode. And it lives up to its name. Not only could I not even access this mode until I cleared the game once, I was only allowed 3 saves the entire playthrough, and it felt like enemies were even faster and deadlier than before. It was made extremely nerve-wracking to play this mode, especially live on Twitch. But the reward for completing hardcore mode is one of my favorites in all of gaming. Permission to speak about one of my favorite completion bonuses of all time, something that helped me blaze through the DLC for Dead Space 2 and do all my trophy cleanup with ease.
I'll allow it, but only because it's so friggin' awesome.
Essentially, beating hardcore mode gives players access to the hand cannon, a giant foam finger that Isaac puts over his hand. This is the absolute best weapon in the game, and not just because it explodes and dismembers necromorphs as fast as you can pull the trigger. No, the real best part is that Isaac says, "Bang" and "pew pew" over and over again every time you fire. Bang, 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 bang. Regular fire is bang bang, and alt mode is pew pew, and it's all incredible. And the best part is there's no animation, so you just see body parts flying all over the place. I loved that I was rewarded for doing the most difficult thing this game had to offer, and could then use that reward for cleanup for everything else. I still had to knock out one more playthrough for trophy purposes, and I did have some DLC content to mow through as well. But the best part was that I used the hand cannon in the DLC story that stars Gabe, a totally different character. However, the voice acting for the bangs and the pew pews was still Isaac's voice actor. And for some weird reason, that just made me laugh.
I love that Visceral Games clearly has a sense of humor with their completion bonus. Yes, Dead Space 2's atmosphere is oppressive and overwhelming and downright freaky, but it still sticks to its core echoes of blasting space monsters, and of course, having a great time with your friends. And talking about Dead Space with Gerard is one of my favorite things.
So what do you say, Jesse? You want to do a little co-op for Dead Space 3 with me? I have actually never played Dead Space 3, mostly for 2 reasons. One, because I thought that everyone hated that game, and I got yelled at for doing a brand deal for it. And 2, I never had anyone to play with. It's kind of like my version of the Back to the Future trilogy. I just never saw the 3rd one until recently. In my eyes, Isaac just soared the galaxy forever.
Oh, Gerard. You sweet, simple fool. You don't know what you're asking of me.
When we recompleted Dead Space 2, there were 3 full playthroughs of the main campaign, once on Zealot, once on Hardcore, and then once again on Normal for achievement and trophy cleanup duties. 6 deaths. Honestly, I thought there'd been way more since I hadn't played through this game in quite a minute, but it looks like I still got it, baby. However, I will say 3 of those deaths were on the hardcore mode, meaning I had to restart the entire game or reload way back from older save points. Yeah, it was really sad. 58 achievements unlocked. 10,000 times I said pew pew with Isaac as I used that big old finger foam gun. 38 hours of total playtime, and 1 eyeball sequence that is so probably one of the most genuinely disturbing things I've ever played in a video game. Look, if you're at all squeamish about needles and things touching your eye, then I may politely urge you to never ever finish this game, because woo, needles and eyes, not my thing.
Dead Space 2 is infinitely better than Dead Space 1, and I freaking love Dead Space 1. It's a stellar sequel that improves on practically everything that made the first game incredible. The completion bonus of the finger gun is incredible and rewarding, and it makes subsequent playthroughs super fun to blitz through. This is truly one of my favorite franchises that unfortunately got killed in the most recent years. So everyone, pour one out for Dead Space 1 and 2, and sometimes 3, as we give this game once again our completionist rating of complete.
Complete it!
Complete it!